Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this study today as we are going through our Hebrew word study. And we are continuing, as we have been for quite a time, on 1 Samuel and chapter 17. And we're picking up with some really exciting things coming. And so I'm going to share my screen. And you should see on the screen now a section of a page from a Bible program called Bible Hub. If this is your first time joining our study, you'll see that we use Bible Hub as our kind of our basis to go through and look at the Hebrew verses. It reads from right to left, and so we're at verse 4. And as we know, we're following the life of David, the story of David as he's interacting with Saul, and things are about to get very exciting as we get into the story of David and Goliath. So verse 4 says, Vayetse ish havenayim. And so went out a man, a champion is traditionally what is translated in pretty much all of our Bibles. There's nothing noteworthy about Vayetse, he went out, the man Ish, but you'll see that there is a connector, a line called a makef that connects the word Ish to Ha-benayim. And this word Ha-benayim, there's a definite article in the front. Going to give you a little bit of grammar today, if you don't mind. The hey with the patak underneath, or the short a sound vowel, is the definite article. And so it would really say the man, um, the champion, as it's translated, has the definite article in front of it. Ish does not have a definite article. So it's kind of an interesting combination of a indefinite article for Ish with a definite article of the champion. And so we're going to, knowing that the hey is the definite article, we're going to strip that away and look at the root word, which is the bait, the noon, the yud, and the final mem or mem sofit, which is where we have bayim, benayim. So let's take a look at that word, because it is very, very interesting. You notice that with Bible Hub, you can click on the hotkey above it, and it takes you to a dictionary, concordance, lexicon, kind of all the same thing. And let's unpack this word and search its root. And this is where the real joy of studying the Hebrew language comes from. We find that this word is translated, benayim, but again, these are English translations. These are what the majority of the translators will designate this word to mean. And on the face value, yeah, champion is fine. It's a great translation, but there's we want to look deeper into the root, especially when we see that this word is only used in the Hebrew Bible twice, and always used in both times in regards to this giant Goliath, which I find kind of interesting. Why this word? Surely there would have been some men in Israel, some warriors in Israel somewhere along the line that would have merited having this word applied to them as being a champion, but it's not. Only Goliath has this applied to him, so which piques our interest. So we see that this word, they're actually showing 4 consonants in this original word. We know that in Hebrew, there's something called a triconsonantal root. That means that every word in the Hebrew can be drilled down, boiled down, reduced down to 3 consonants where the root of the word or the meaning of the word was derived from. And so we get a little bit of a hint here where it says that this word origin is a form of bayin. So we're going to click on bayin and see where that takes us. So the word bayin, which is the bait, the yud, and a noon sofit, gets us down to our triconsonantal root. Here the yud is acting as a consonant, but it also is a vowel letter. And again, we have to go a little deeper into the Hebrew grammar to get an understanding there, but we'll see kind of how it functions here when you hear the pronunciation of Bain. Has a sad A vowel underneath it, combines with the yud, and so it gives you the one syllable of Bain. And here the definition is not champion, but an interval, a space between. So this piques our interest a little bit in finding out, okay, what's going on here? Where did this word that's translated as champion come from, and why is it only applied here? So, and why is it only used twice? So here's where we get some interesting understanding. What I'd like to do is go a little bit deeper into the Aramaic root. The Hebrew and the Aramaic are sister languages. Aramaic is thought to have existed slightly before and has a more ancient background. So we're going to look in what is called the dictionary of the Targumim by Marcus Yastro, kind of my go-to for digging deeper into these roots. And so I went and looked this up ahead of time, but for doing this on your own, it's free. You can bookmark it, and you can buy the book in print form, but you can find it online, and searching is quite a bit easier. So you do have to be somewhat familiar with the Hebrew alphabet. You'd click on the bait, which is the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and then go down to the next one, which is the bait with the yud and the noon sofit, and click on it, and it would take you to the page, and here you see the Hebrew letters of the bait. This has a patak underneath, the yud and the noon safit, but it kind of gives us a place to jump into, because what's so interesting, as I had mentioned in previous lessons, in these Hebrew lexicons, that words are relative, meaning that the words you find in the lexicon, you can look before the word in the entry in the lexicon and after the word, and you'll find that sometimes they are related, because that's how the Hebrew language works, which makes it so beautiful. English, you can't do that. You can't go to the A in the alphabet and look at the words that surround the word you're looking for and see that they have any meaning or any impact on the word you're studying. But in Hebrew and Aramaic, you can do that. And so we see the word for Bain is something that's split, something that's placed between. And of course, the vowel pointings were put in by the Masoretes between 600 and 900 years AD, or in the Common Era, if you prefer to use that verbiage. And it talks about something that's in between. So this is really interesting. What is this in between word? Well, what we find out in looking at, I'm fortunate to have a set of JPS, which is Jewish Publication Society, has printed some Hebrew Bibles and study guides. And I have one from the Socino Press, and it has a nice commentary down below, and it happens to have a little break here, and it talks about this word champion. And they're saying here in the Hebrew commentary is the man of the space between two armies. And really how they render it is a man that came out between the two armies. So if you remember from last week, the Israelites were on one side of the valley, and the Philistines were on the other side of the valley. And in between, this was the area to be where the fighting would occur. It was a delineated place of battle, probably used for hundreds of years, many, many times, where they would meet together and do the battle. Well, in this midst, in between these two armies, stood this man. And so it doesn't give any indication that he was valiant, that, we assume he was, or he would not have stood out there, but there's nothing really here to give us the idea that he was a champion by any means, although we would have to assume he was, or he would not have been chosen to stand in between. And that's where the translators assign this word champion. Again, you can see the literary license and privilege they take to help us come into a meaning, because if you just saw a man that was standing in between, you really wouldn't get an understanding of maybe who he was. But again, there's nothing scripturally in these verses that tell you that he ever won a battle, ever conquered over anybody, was anybody of great renown. That is just something indicated and implied by the translators. But he was a man that stood between and came out from the camp of the Philistines, going back to our verse in Bible Hub again. Previously, we looked at the meaning of the word Philistine and where its root was, but we want to look at the words for Goliath and Gath. These are fascinating words. Um, and so, going back to champion, I forgot to point out that this word champion is a noun, but it has a plurality on it. You'll see that this is one of the few places where the naim is being used. Hebrew has singular, it has duality, uh, implied, and it has plurality implied along with masculine and feminine. And you most often see the plurality, which is implying more than one, but there are cases where duality is implied, and that's the case here with champion. It's implied as a duality because it's between two armies. Other places where you'll see Hebrew words that have the duality listed are used for eyes, for uh, enayim, which would be your set of eyes, your ears, because they come in twos, your legs and your arms. You'll find that in the plural, it will be expressed as a duality. So it's a little interesting nuance about Hebrew that is different than English, of course. So we get to Goliath, which the Hebrew word is Goliath, Goliath, and so it's a proper noun. Really doesn't give you a whole lot of indication. When we click on it, it'll say that it's the name of a giant. But again, we have to dig a little bit deeper and go to this word Gala, which is the root word. And the root word here is very interesting. It means to uncover or to remove. Now, when you study the scriptures, there is the Parades method, which is an acronym that stands for Peshat, Remez, the Deresh, and then the Sud. The Peshat, which is as simple as just the surface meaning. It's the name of a city, name of a guy, and you take that as Peshat. Well, the Remez would be a hint, would be something in your spirit that tells you, well, there's maybe some meaning here. There's something I need to dig a little bit deeper. And that's where our study begins as we look to this word to uncover and remove. Well, how does that fit in with the name of Goliath? Why is the base of his name coming from a word that means to uncover and reveal? And if you want to take this even a little bit further, you'll find there's a related meaning here to the word for Galilee that's referenced in the New Testament. Obviously, Jesus was from Galilee, and it shares the same root word. And I think it's so cool to think that and understand that Jesus came from Galilee, which the root word for Galilee is to be revealed, to be uncovered, to be disclosed. And so Jesus came from Galilee and was revealed to us. Well, what is Goliath trying to reveal, or what is God trying to reveal through the name of Goliath? And even with this, what is he trying to share with us? That is, he's about to reveal the next king. He's about to reveal the um, uh, person taking over for Saul. And of course, this sets the stage for the battle of David and Goliath, of course. And whether Goliath's name was given to him by his mom and dad, probably not. to me, it shows a meaning here of what God is trying to do to reveal to the Israelites, to reveal to us, to reveal to the whole world what's about to happen in this battle. And so we see Goliath is the name, Shemo, and then the word for Migat. You'll notice that it's translated as from Gath. The mem preposition with the hirig underneath means that it's means from, and gat is the meaning of the word. So let's just click a little bit and see what got means. It'll say, a city in the land of the Philistines, but here's another cool indication. It has the word wine press attached to it. It was a place associated with pressing of grapes. Now, what's interesting here is this battle is going to be fought by a man revealed from the wine press, is really what it's coming from. And what quickened in my spirit, or what my remez was, is if when you read the book of Revelation, you'll see there's a lot of indication of the pressing of wine and the grapes coming out, and their significance in the last days and in these battles that take place. And to think that that is referenced in the book of Revelation ties it back to Gath here, of what battle is about to take place. And I believe it's significant that there's nothing here by happenstance. And so kind of interesting how that ties in. And then finally, as we close just the study of this verse today, we are wowed by the height of this guy. And so we know he was a giant. Here you see the Shesh Amot Vizaret. Shesh is the number 6 in Hebrew. Mot is the word for cubit. The history tells us that it's a unit of measurement that we're not really 100% sure what it is, but traditionally it is the distance from the tip of your index finger to going down your forearm to the end of your elbow. And so of course, that's going to be different on every person, just like, we use the word foot, meaning 12 inches, really used to be the foot of length of the king, that the king's foot would create a measurement and used as a unit of measure. Well, here the cubit is the length from your fingertip, your middle finger, the edge of that, the tip of it to the end of your elbow along your forearm, which is approximately 18 inches. And so if you multiply the number 6 times 18 inches, you get 108 inches, which translates into 9 feet tall. And then it adds this span. Well, what is a span? History tells us that this span comes from when you fan your fingers out and you measure from the thumb to the edge of the little finger. That would be a span. Your hand spans out that far, and that measurement is traditionally thought to be 9 inches or half of a cubit. So here we get the height of Goliath is a cubit and a span, or 9 feet 9 inches. And so just a little interesting tidbit of information here. I hope you enjoyed our study. I pray that you are just moved by God's word, and that you will see what a beautiful, beautiful method we have to study the Hebrew language and to dig deeper to find out about this one who loves us so very, very much. God bless you and have a wonderful day.